Sons and daughters of the Most High God, I salute you in the flame of gold, and the God Tabor stands with me. We have come to address you this evening on the subject of the gold of God in spirit and the gold of God in matter, and the just apportionment of the great cosmic flow of this energy in the city four square. The city four square is a matrix for the proving of the light of God in each of the seven rays. The action of the God of gold is the instantaneous precipitation of the mind of God through the alchemy of the emerald and crystal ray. Thus, the second and the fifth rays become twin flames for the precipitation of God's will as the flow of supply and demand, which, from this night forward, we direct that children of God must demand as the abundance of God upon earth. We have come to teach to you a lesson on the economy of the nations, an understanding which is held by some among the students of light. But the majority among Earth's evolutions do not stop long enough in the day to take the trouble to appreciate the meaning of supply and the fact that all of life as a flow of energy, of commerce, of interchange, and of consciousness depends upon the proper working of that supply and the medium of exchange in the economies of the nations. The term Golden Age did not derive from nothing. Golden Age means an age based upon the gold standard, the standard of the gold of the Christ consciousness, of the golden rule, of gold as precipitated sunlight for the balance of the mind and the emotions and the flow of life even in the physical temple. Gold, beloved ones, is necessary for the stability of consciousness as well as for the stability of the economies of the nations. Unless there be a certain portion of gold even in the temple, the balance of the elements is not held. When the people no longer hold gold in their possession or wear gold, there is far greater mental and emotional disturbance. Gold is the lodestone of Alpha and Omega. It is a reminder to every child of God at the soul level of the great throne of grace, of the great throne room that is white and gold in the great central sun. It is from this room that souls of light took leave of the octaves of spirit descending in the plains of mater. It was my commission from Alpha and Omega, eons and eons ago, to establish the focuses of gold in the matter planes among the galaxies, and thus to teach elemental life under the four hierarchies and through the Elohim, how the balance of forces in the four planes of mater would be anchored through the magnetic quality of this precipitated sunlight. Thus the elementals learned to precipitate gold, and thus gold does grow in the earth, veins expand, and this balancing of energy corresponds directly to, first of all, the blueprint of the Christ consciousness of the evolutions of earth or of a system of worlds, and then to that which has been outpictured through the threefold flame. That which is the gold in circulation represents attainment in the outer. Gold that remains undiscovered represents that portion of potential of the Christ mind which remains to be brought forth. You cannot have a demonstration of light and of the consciousness of the Christ without a corresponding manifestation of gold in your world. What has taken place since the fall of the fallen ones and others who have come as laggard generations is that they themselves have not possessed the Christ consciousness. In lieu of this, they have sought to amass the gold of the world, taking it from circulation, placing it in their own coffers, and offering the people of the earth a paper substitute. Thus, while it is the Christ consciousness of the sons and daughters of God that is actually responsible for this gold in circulation, it is the fallen ones who have it in their possession, and thus, quite naturally, according to the law of cosmos, do control events upon the earth. Beloved ones, when you accept paper as a substitute for the promise from Alpha and Omega, as a substitute for that necessary focal point of the cosmic Christ, you cut yourself off from a very necessary flow of energy. The absence of gold, pure gold, and its formation into coins is one of the key reasons why there is such a serious condition in the psychology of men and women and children on earth today. Beloved ones, there are many children who have never in their entire embodiment touched a piece of gold that is pure gold. And there are many individuals who are lured by the fallen ones to spend their paper money on all manner of objects and luxuries and at personal adornments. And yet they have very little gold in their possession. Better to exchange all of these for a single piece of gold that you wear upon your person, for it is a necessary part of the alchemy of holding the balance for the flow of light in spirit and in matter. I have a direct ray to the councils of the fallen ones who are meeting on the economies of the nations. I am aware at all cycles in the universe, wherever I am in consciousness, of the deliberations of the fallen ones in this and other systems of worlds as they attempt to manifest their anti-gold consciousness. Though it seems that the fallen ones are bent on the destruction of civilization through government, in fact, it is a reality today that they are in the process of destroying civilization through economics and through the manipulation of gold. Therefore, beloved ones, because this action of the flow of supply and demand is absolutely essential to the maintenance of Camelot, of the city foursquare, and of America herself, and of the free nations, it behooves those committees which will be formed as representatives of the Elohim in the matter plane to immediately take up the subject of the study of the issue of gold. Beloved ones, it requires light bearers and initiates on the path because of the great darkness of energy concentrated around gold. First of all, there is a great light. The light of gold is so intense that it will change the force field and the consciousness. If there be any residue in people at subconscious levels of greed and selfishness, possessiveness and attachment, then the presence of gold will amplify these tendencies and the individual will make the karma for the misuse of that gold. And therefore, this is why there are many, many souls upon earth who have not supply or abundance, because abundance produces in them greed, debauchery, immorality, the misuse of light, and hence causes them to create greater and greater karma. Thus, in meting out the karma of mankind, the ascended masters have allowed some who are paying the karma of their debt to the God of gold to remain without an abundance of supply. This balance of power on earth then ought not to be interfered with or tampered with by such systems as communism, socialism, and the totalitarian form of economics which is behind that form of government. It is necessary then, in taking up the question of gold and its study, to be prepared for mass entities that are vicious and virulent upon the earth, such as the entities of the beast of Wall Street, the money beast, and all of those manifestations of the tentacles of the money beast. This beast has been bound and cleared many times by the hosts of the Lord in answer to the calls of the students of light. It is recreated daily by those who deal in the commodities market and on the stock market and in the Federal Reserve System for the manipulation of inflation and deflation and the putting forth of currency which is not backed any longer by gold in this nation. Beloved ones, if you would right the wrong that has been done to the people of Israel in this nation, you must be prepared to wage one of the greatest battles of the Battle of Armageddon. It is the battle to reinstate the flow of gold and to wrest from the fallen ones that gold and to return it to the light bearers. It is, as it were, almost an impossible task, and yet I tell you, with God, all things are possible. The Almighty has infinite resources of gold with which to bless you and release into your life stream the necessary balance. Thus we deal with the equation of greater light and greater darkness. And in the midst of the balance of this equation, through the cloven tongues of fire of Alpha and Omega, focused in the all-seeing eye, there is the necessity of amassing all information pertaining to the use of gold, to the Federal Reserve System, to the economies of the nations of the earth, to the reserves of gold, and the sources of gold and the use of gold in those nations. It behooves you then to do research with individuals who have much greater information than I could set before you this evening in this dictation. When all facts are at hand, then a committee should be formed to study these facts, and if you will call to me, I will assist you. Mind you, you must perpetuate your calls to Archangel Michael, calling for the ring pass not, for this is, above all, the great key and the most important work that you can undertake, for all else hangs upon it. You must realize that the violet flame action of the Holy Spirit in the hands of Saint Germain, the great alchemist of all times, is adequate to effect the transfer back to the gold standard without collapsing the economy. For mankind have not reckoned with the infinite sources of gold, almost infinite, available to the people of earth, nor have they reckoned with the energy of the violet flame and the great alchemist. Therefore, do not despair, and never allow yourselves to become negative, but only well-disciplined and determined. The reason I set this before you this night, rather than going to others who may be more skilled in law or in economics, is because, one and all, those who have perceived the plot of the liar and his lie have not been able to move in because of, one, an absence of a definite plan guided by the Darjeeling Council, and two, an absence of reinforcement of their protection by direct tie to the ascended hosts of the Lord. In this age, to challenge this manifestation requires the full backing of hierarchy, and you require that backing through constant decrees. Therefore, beloved ones, you see, we come to you because you are not conditioned in areas of specialization, and therefore your consciousness has not been trained to such a narrow extent that you will be unfree to tap the great secrets of the universe, the mysteries of gold, and to give a creative input for an absolute genius solution to the problem. Therefore, we select those who have less training rather than more, and we call upon those students of light who are well-versed and who do have the fine understanding of the subject through education. Let all work together, and let all come to the conclusion that the salvation of the soul of America depends upon the reestablishment of gold. Now, beloved ones, I recommend to you, all of you, that you reestablish your personal economy on the gold standard, that you take from 0.5 to 1% of your monthly earnings and transfer this into gold. It may require the savings of several months or longer, but it is necessary that there be a steady transfer of at least 1% of your energy as supply into gold, as a matrix, as a focal point. And it would be well that some of this be worn upon your physical body, and that the remainder be placed in a well-secured place. Your body temples must become adjusted to the vibrations of gold. Your children must become adjusted to its vibrations. And therefore it is well that they will carry the medallion of beloved Mother Mary of the miraculous medal, which focuses not only the gold of my consciousness, but the mother consciousness of gold in her protection and in the electronic presence of the Virgin Mother, whose golden consciousness was able to receive the divine man-child. And through this gold, you see, we anchor the Immaculate Conception of the Cosmic Virgin, whereby your children and yourselves may receive within your heart flame the true birth of the divine man-child, the Christ consciousness in this age. Beloved ones, it is the love of money that is the root of all evil, and therefore the non-attachment to the coin of the realm is absolutely necessary. You must see it as an instrument and as an alchemical formula. You must see, beloved ones, that this energy, when it is in flow, when it passes hand to hand, when it is part of the movement of commerce, does regulate that commerce intrinsically within itself. Is this not a wondrous discovery to realize that the cosmic law of supply and demand actually works itself out in the economies of the nations through the free flow of gold itself? Can you imagine if mankind knew this key and were able to accept it, free from superstition? Gold, in fact, is a talisman of the great central sun. And therefore, when you give and receive in gold, you cannot misqualify that gold with greed, because gold resists the vibration of greed. Whereas you take the paper money and the copper and the nickel coins, and you find that even silver itself is able to retain a vibration of greed, but not gold, beloved ones. It repels it instantaneously, and therefore retains that purity of the goddess of purity, focused by her, that comes from Alpha and Omega. And therefore, there is an upward spiral in the consciousness, and gold becomes an instrument of the soul liberation of a planet and a people. Beloved ones, it is this message that must be spread abroad. It is this message that must be the basis of your deliberation. The American people must understand the great fraud that has been perpetrated upon them by this printing of money without backing. The grinding out of money by the printing presses will surely cause the collapse of the economies of the nations. You see then, when you expand and you expand, you must be careful that your house is not built upon the same sand that the house of America is now built upon, but that you can build upon the rock of the Christ consciousness and set the economy of your own house in order, and thereby assist in the great alchemy, the leavening process. It is the desire of the God Tabor to convey to you the message that within his retreat, that certain retreat that is kept hidden from the eyes of the world, that there is a focal point of gold, as well as books upon the subject of gold, which are ancient. These are manuscripts, and they have set forth the intricacies of the law, the wisdom of the Christed ones, the plots of the fallen ones, and all that you require in an understanding of how it will be necessary to defeat them and to reestablish the light consciousness upon earth. I ask that you will make calls then to Saint Germain, to the God Tabor, and to myself, to be allowed to enter this retreat in your etheric body, to study these volumes, and therefore to draw forth from them in your waking consciousness the necessary solutions which will be given to you by the master alchemist Saint Germain. I now increase a ray of gold into your beings, penetrating through the third eye, reinforcing that center of light for your victory. For we also have received a dispensation whereby we may assist you as the avant-garde in the coming revolution. I have placed a ring of gold around your third eye chakra to reinforce that focal point of energy, so that it is less vulnerable to impure seeing and to the penetrations of the mad demons of insanity and the manipulations of your emotional body through the third eye, whereby the flow of harmony is broken and your emotional body is catapulted into the astral plane, and the plummeting of your being into lower levels of darkness, causing the overthrow of your equilibrium. Whenever this occurs, beloved ones, you lose the flow of supply. You lose the great abundance of God for yourself, your family, your community, your organization. Therefore, take this ring of gold as a ring pass not. Reinforce it by God's determination to see purity, to act with discrimination, to be aware of evil but to be unmoved and unattached, to be aware of good and yet to know that only God is good. I am intensifying the golden ray. Be not concerned if there is a discomfort in the third eye. This is necessary for the transfer of light. I assure you that this will enable you to become greater alchemists if you will also remember to give the calls to be stripped of doubt and fear, and for the transmutation of all subconscious records of greed and selfishness. When you are free of the desire, utterly free of the desire to possess funds, you will find yourself in the greatest glory of the abundant life you have ever known. There are some who must keep the flame with spiritual light, and therefore to these this law does not apply. But for the vast majority of initiates on the path, it is desirelessness that is the alchemy for precipitation. If you therefore desire to see the swift expansion of Camelot, the necessary funds, the necessary buildings, the necessary outreach, and all that must go before us, practice then the art of becoming independent of possessions and of money, and see how you will become independently wealthy. Beloved ones, it is not so far from you. Some of you have concealed beneath the folds of your garments the secret desire to have wealth for power. Release it. Only God is the power that you desire. Some of you desire wealth to be thought well and wise, to have reached the acme in the success cult. Surrender it into the flame. Guard your discipline and your ability to receive and to give supply, but surrender all attachment thereto. Beloved ones, many times when you have nothing, or little or nothing, it is easy to say, I have no desire for the material things of this world. But again and again it has been noted, when those from poverty have risen to wealth, that they have squandered that wealth upon themselves, luxury upon luxury, to satisfy their desire to be equal to the wealthy of this world. Beloved ones, it is this same motive that is behind the scheme of world communism. Those who preach the sharing of all things in common are in fact extremely jealous of those who have wealth, and thus to acquire that wealth, they invent a philosophy, and it is not based upon the golden rule. If then each time there is an increase of abundance in your life, you multiply it wisely, and you give a just portion unto the house of the Lord, as your just tribute for the expansion of spiritual light, and prove yourself absolutely efficient in the use of your funds, you will see that God will increase and increase and increase. But as quickly as you become self-indulgent, so that quickly will the dispensation be withdrawn from you. Over the years, many souls of light have been sponsored by us who have asked for the opportunity to increase supply in order to give to God. Those who have met their side of the bargain have found that they have increased. Those who have not have lost their contact and earned their karma thereby. Beloved ones, do not be naive. There are many forces at work in your own subconscious which must be purged ere you can be instruments of the conquering of the fallen ones and their lies. Therefore, let it happen. Do not resist any longer. Free yourself from the attachment to the things of this world and discover then how you can have that very abundance. For we do not suggest that you live in sackcloth. After all, your temples are the temple of the living God, and that adornment which is necessary for the reflection of light and for the beauty of your form is certainly condoned by heaven. It is the excess which we would speak of. Beloved ones, there are ways and means of expanding supply. There are ways and means of reducing it to nothing by its misuse. And therefore, the frugal consciousness, the flowing consciousness, the giving and receiving consciousness must be pursued. Oddly enough, it is the free flow of movement within your physical body that also transfers to the soul, the chakras, and the emotional body the ability to freely receive and freely give of cosmic energies. And therefore, pursue those exercises, whether of yoga or of a Western form, which enable your bodies to feel free and graceful and energetic and absorbing the prana of the air. For there is a certain amount of golden sunlight and precipitated sunlight that you take in by this process as well. Now, beloved ones, I have brought my tale to an end. I have told you a story. I have given you necessary information. But the story is larger. I will leave it to you then to research that which has taken place upon the earth. I will leave it to you to see what you will do then, point, counterpoint, to anchor the great golden light of the sun in the matter octave. I commend you, blessed ones, for your alchemy in the precipitation of Camelot. We have worked directly with you, hand to hand, and we are most pleased that this company of light-bearers has had the determination to bring forth the supply necessary for their own soul liberation. By this demonstration of faith, hope, and charity, for all three have been necessary, you have proven yourselves worthy for greater supply. Go forth then, claim it, demand it, and be the abundant life. I am your servant, as you are the servant of Almighty God.